Let me just add you.
It's OBS.
Fucking OBS. I couldn't believe my camera went out during
Like
the.
my stream is frozen right now because
Really?
my not my stream but my webcam on my stream is frozen right now. Like it won't. It's tweaking, yeah.
All right. Well, I'm almost set here.
All right.
Let's see here. How long have you been streaming, Huz?
5 hours and 30 minutes.
Sheesh.
Holy shit.
All right, so I thought it would be interesting to bring all of us together for a conversation because we all have similar politics, and I feel like, well, we all have similar politics, but we all kind of have like different focuses in some ways. And Sameera does really great journalism. Lots of the stuff that I get and I talk about surrounding the squad, I get from Sameera. Independent journalist right now. Previously worked at RT's, been on CGTN, lots of other networks. I'm sure you can talk about that, and you'll know Haz.
Oh,
But I think it'll be.
Oh, there you go. It's working.
Oh shit! Sorry.
All right.
Yeah, we've been planning this for a long time, and we finally got around to it.
Yes. So, yes, Sameera, do you want to introduce yourself, actually, for those
Okay.
who don't know you?
I'm Sameera Khan. I am a former RT correspondent. Right now, I am a journalist as well as an analyst. I go on different news networks, mostly CGTN, RT, etc. And I focus mostly on foreign policy and international relations, and I troll the squad.
You do a good job of it.
I get in trouble for it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't you get banned from Twitter over it?
For like 24 hours because I called AOC an effing biatch.
Damn, I do worse to Twitch streamers on here on a regular basis.
Yeah, I mean, they protect her, so of course.
Yeah. Well, I think an interesting thing to start off talking about is something that I actually haven't talked a whole lot about on my channel, and I was thinking about kind of saving it for this. So Haz just did a really, I kind of want to talk about, I think Ukraine would be interesting to talk about right now, and also Taiwan. Haz just did a debate with this, he's for sure, like, he's like Fed or Fed adjacent. This other Twitch streamer, he did a debate with him on Taiwan, and it was really interesting. And Sameera, you just...
Twitch streamer?
I don't even want to mention his name. And then Sameera, you just posted something and exposed something about how the squad was out there meeting with Taiwanese separatist politicians and shit. So, what do you think? And Haz, I mean, you did an incredible job eviscerating him in that debate. What do you guys think the future is insofar as China's ability to be able to protect their sovereignty when you don't have a lot of Taiwanese separatist sentiment within Taiwan that's like 5 or 6% of the people want to separate from China? What do you guys think the potential is as the U.S. is sending like more military aid and training Taiwanese separatists and stuff for China to maintain sovereignty?
Have Haz go first.
I think militarily, I'm not too worried about China's prospects of defending itself. I mean, China has just revealed, or it has been revealed, I don't know which one, it's hypersonic missiles, which the U.S. military has admitted it is absolutely not equipped to respond to. So, in that regard, I don't think... I mean, you also look at China's... I mean, materially speaking, it's... economic partnerships around the world, China's just central role in the stability and order of the global economy It's no question that geostrategically, China has it in the bag, so to speak. The U.S. is, I mean, as far as ensuring its own sovereignty in that regard, China has no problem. It's not like the U.S., has the world behind it, or it is particularly equipped militarily to harm China's sovereignty. However, I still think that there are examples, maybe, and this is kind of speculation on my part, of vulnerabilities, but they're not military economic vulnerabilities. They're how should I put it? Except, I guess, spiritual vulnerabilities. I genuinely think that as the West is in decline, specifically as America is in decline, it has given rise to a very potent weapon, a weapon of war, possibly, which is wokeness. I mean, in the movie Prometheus, I don't know if you're familiar with this, there's an alien civilization which is on the decline and is wiping out. But on the way down, it leaves a little treat, which is in the form of the xenomorph, right? From the Alien movies, this alien that impregnates people, face huggers and stuff. I think something similar is happening with America in regards to wokeness. And it shouldn't be underestimated because the West's power has always come from imposing doubt and upsetting norms and traditional values and this kind of stuff. And like it's China's century of humiliation. It was completely shocked at the naval power of the British, which was based on modern industry and so on. So the last form of this, I think, is this kind of cultural change happening in America, which I think could be a very lethal export to China and elsewhere.
Yeah, I would agree. In fact, it's their principal weapon that they're using against China. Number one, climate change. And number two, human rights and democracy activism. And that's not just happening in the mainland or in Taiwan or in Chinese territory, but in countries that the Belt and Road Initiative extend to. For example, in Cambodia, there are projects that the U.S. government has sanctioned only because they're done by Chinese companies. Myanmar is another area. Now, they actually have regions organized in terms of priority. Number one being the Indo-Pacific, which is South Asia and Southeast Asia. Over there, they have India on their side, maybe not so much formally. However, they are using other powers in the area, for example, India, South Korea, Japan, Australia, to carry out their destabilization. And most of it is economic. They're trying to destabilize mostly Belt and Road, and they're using climate change to do it. At least that's the main weapon at the moment. Biden, if you remember, in his campaign platform, his climate change platform, he said that Belt and Road is one of the greatest polluters, and like carbon this, carbon that, and we have to offer Belt and Road countries other initiatives, and also use sanctions if they don't listen to us, basically. So there are a lot of different strategies at play, and I think that's where China might be vulnerable in other countries.
Okay. I do want to ask, so I just saw a news headline right now. It says, breaking news, it says, Pentagon orders 101st Airborne Air Assault at Fort Campbell to be ready for possible deployment. Right now, obviously, as we move into this age of multipolarity, China and Russia are going to have their own battles to deal with, be it actual battles or be it like economic destabilization, through all this hybrid warfare that the Squad and the progressives are supporting in this 21st century diplomacy shift. They're moving away. Sameera, we actually talk about this a lot. They are doing this thing where they go out and they say, we want to defund the Pentagon budget by 10%, and then they're going out and voting for and passing an increase to the State Department budget by 12%, which is even more what the Biden administration asked for with Antony Blinken. They asked for a 10% increase. So I'm curious, what do each of you think about the differences in how China and Russia have been combating U.S. hybrid warfare and just general like imperialist antics, meddling in their domestic affairs. How do you think it differs in just generally how China and Russia have been responding to the U.S. and Western powers? And I guess if you were to say, like, do you think one strategy has been more effective than another? Sameera, do you want to go first?
Sure. I think that Russia's strength is in information warfare. China doesn't have that great of a media game going on. But in terms of military and security threats, I think that they are handling their own internal affairs and preventing this sort of hybrid proxy warfare in each of their respective countries in a similar manner. Like I said, information warfare, RT is ahead of the game. They're the first ones to sort of get their narrative out. Now, China is not so great at the media game, and it's been a big problem, actually, at least from a journalist's perspective, because, for example, when all of these allegations were made against Xinjiang, CGTN and other Chinese media outlets, they ignored it, and then, they decided to counter Western propaganda by posting videos of, all of the development and the progress in Xinjiang region. But Americans and other Westerners and people around the globe, they actually will not understand that as like a sign that, everything is fine in Xinjiang. They need direct communication. They need a direct message, which China is not very good at. But I think now they actually have a media collaboration agreement with Russian media, Russian state media. So I think that there will be massive improvements going forward.
What I completely agree with that. I mean, Russia has definitely advantage when it comes to its media compared to Chinese media. But something else that I find ironic about that is that when you look at, I guess, the spiritual and philosophical roots of Western information warfare, which is based in, let's just call it this new human rights, wokeness, and whatever we want to call this moralism and ideological fanaticism of liberalism. I think the irony, though, is that I think China is better equipped, even if it has not expressed this yet in the form of media, in being able to challenge this specific worldview of liberalism generally, I suppose, from a kind of philosophical perspective of Xi Jinping thought. And Xi Jinping thought is something that is being disseminated in China, even at the lowest levels among the youth and among society and among culture. There is a kind of awakening of national consciousness within China to which is kind of making it immune slowly to the virus of liberalism. Russia, I think, has some internal challenges in this regard because ideologically speaking, it's in a very ambiguous place. I think liberalism still has a degree of strength in Russia that it does not in China. So despite that Russia is better at waging war in America for information war, within Russia, I think Russia may have more trouble than China. But hopefully Russia can learn from this kind of renaissance that China is undergoing to make itself immune from the virus of liberalism.
Well, from the perspective of the United States, what people like Bernie and Biden have done is they've organized the world into two different spheres between liberal democracy and authoritarianism. And this is progressive foreign policy, basically. It was in Bernie's platform, and Biden sort of held on to it. Russia and China are grouped in the same category as, quote, authoritarian states. So in how the state behaves, I think the U.S. views it as the same as authoritarian, and even though they might be different degrees of, enemies of the U.S. state, I think that the fact that the U.S. is waging war against them at the same time will bring them together, and maybe they will, hopefully, they will coordinate their strategies.
As far as U.S. hybrid warfare goes, I brought that up because I think one of the most damaging things about this, new brand of progressivism that we're seeing in the United States that is not at all rooted in any sort of it's not rooted in any sort of history of American progressivism. All this woke identity politics and stuff, this is very new. What do you think the damage is that is going to be done to other countries, and where are we already seeing this play out, and how is it playing out from what you've seen? I mean, you're very, I guess, you could say, I know Haz has a lot of friends all across the globe in different political movements, and Sameera, you keep on tabs on all this stuff as well. So what do you see as being the overarching goal of progressives in the United States and the billionaires that are funding all of this woke agenda and Ivy League universities and now public universities here on the West Coast that is going to be brought to other countries to try and create some of the problems we've seen here surrounding these political divisions? What do you see for the future in this diplomacy ship, creating this this veil of progressivism and wokeism on really what just is neoconservatism?
It differs by country basis. For example, in Russia, they do have sanctions on the leader of Chechnya, Ramzan Kadyrov, for human rights violations, specifically for allegedly putting gays in gay gulags. Right? That's the claim. There is no evidence for this, but that's just a model for what is to come with if this Globe Act that you were talking about in your previous video, I remember, does pass, and that is basically being co-sponsored by the Squad. They want to use LGBT rights to undermine and destabilize countries that, I guess, run counter or have an agenda, have a policy that does not align perfectly with U.S. goals. Some of the countries mentioned are China, Brunei. Ilhan Omar actually wanted to sanction Brunei, a Muslim majority country, for violating LGBT rights. I mean, that's just a couple, but several in Africa. Africa is where they've set upon. But Russia, China, Iran, another one. But Saudi Arabia, not so much.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. They also are going to protect Israel at whatever cost. That's
right. Israel does not, carry out any human rights violations or anything. But Ilhan Omar certainly doesn't think so. According to her letter, the Countering Islamophobia Act, Israel wasn't even mentioned.
I don't see her getting. I think she's going to have a tough time getting reelected in the coming years. Maybe not this cycle, but coming up.
I
think. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, regarding the question, I think one of the significant ways I've noticed just more direct, how is this U.S. progressivism sowing problems in other countries exported? Firstly, the danger principally rests in, this is to the extent of my knowledge, Europe, and all of Europe, including Eastern Europe, and Latin America, which is something that no one really pays attention to, right? Around the world, we're witnessing a kind of left-wing resurgence and a turning of tides against the so-called neoliberalism. And people like AOC are big sources of inspiration for these resurgent left-wing movements in Europe and Latin America. Recently in Chile, a left-wing government was elected, but this is not a movement that took its inspiration from historical Chilean left, but from an Americanized left. So the really Trojan horse of American imperialism is taking the form of an apparent resistance against neoliberalism and the IMF, which is actually securing the foundations of a kind of permanent Americanization. Securing countries as loyal to American imperialism in the name of the American left's false pretense to anti-imperialism, which has always been a sham.
And going a little bit deeper on that, can I just like generally ask you about the Billy response? I think it ties in. Can I ask you? Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, we can. So we at the Infrared Collective, we have Chinese members, and we are in contact with Chinese thinkers and Chinese people in general within China, and we have decided to publish our videos on Chinese social media, Bilibili, and the reception has been outstanding. You know, we're growing on Bilibili very fast. Our videos have gone semi-viral. There's a very clear hunger for this type of content, and you know, we feel that there's going to be a kind of global civil war within the left, probably in all countries, because it touches upon decisive questions about what is Marxism, what does it mean, the left and so-called progressivism. And I think here American imperialism is having a very strong foothold. The famous content creator Luna Oi fashions herself as a kind of Vietnamese anti-American, anti-imperialist, but she clearly represents American foreign policy, cultural, at least on the culture front, interests. She's married to an American anarchist, so-called anarchist. So, I mean, these are clear examples of how American imperialist ideology is infiltrating the global left, and the arena is becoming global. So that's why we're on places like Bilibili.
Mm-hmm. Sameer, so one of the things that we've discussed, and I think we have some points of agreement on, I think we're pretty much in agreement on, but we have a little bit of maybe disagreement, is your thoughts on American imperialism benefiting workers in this country. And obviously it does to a certain extent. My argument, and I don't think you disagreed with me, we're in the same vein here, that we think that sure, it obviously does benefit American workers in some regards, but if you're looking at like the net cost, it's a net negative for American workers. How do you think, and this is a question I guess for both of you, how do you think that, because the benefits in like the early 1900s, I guess, were, I think, more tangible and clear, American imperialism, the benefits it gave to the working class here, I guess, or the lies that were sold of benefits. How do you think, as we move forward in this like 21st century diplomacy shift, where they're focusing on a hybrid warfare and these crazy allegations based on like human rights, stuff and things like that, like what you mentioned and everything happening in Xinjiang, how do you think that this might change? How do you think that American workers might respond to, U.S. imperialism when so many in this country are just rejecting what is trying to be shoved down their throats with this woke agenda?
Well, let me answer your first question. Do U.S. workers benefit from imperialism? At the moment, no, it has not since maybe the 60s. But in the 1970s, with the era of neoliberalism, then, the benefits of globalization and participating in the global economy did not trickle down to the population. Now, the Biden administration has recognized this. They have an entire document, a strategy outline. It's called Foreign Policy for the Middle Class. Now, one of the points that it made was that we will not be able to win U.S. workers over for our foreign policy agenda unless these benefits trickle down to the middle class. Maybe not trickle down, but if we increase welfare and make the middle class's lives better, then perhaps they will continue to support our agenda. Because if you notice, what are the arguments being used when you ask workers and middle class workers, hey, why are you against these wars? Hey, we need to actually get out of these wars because, let's put that money to infrastructure, let's put that money to school, etc. So if these benefits do trickle down, and if they actually ensure some welfare and expand social programs, perhaps that sentiment will be removed, and that's what they intend to do. The Build Back Better plan was partially designed to do that.
And the dangerous thing is that, we don't want to throw the word fascism around so easily, but this combination of a kind of, social agenda with this explicit imperialist aggression, its only precedent is really fascism. I mean, Nazism and fascism were responding to this issue. How do we reconcile, the material needs of the working class with our imperialist agenda? We basically dupe the population into thinking they're going to get the spoils of our imperialist adventures, which is what Italy did when it invaded Ethiopia, which is what the Germans were promising the German workers in their eastward expansion. And we're witnessing the birth of that, specifically within American progressivism through Biden and Bernie and the squad. Now, regarding the broader question, Sameera is completely right. It's the Bretton Woods system that was started immediately after World War II, which corresponded to some kind of middle-class American prosperity. This was an imperialist system. However, it was a system that more or less helped develop and industrialize countries like Japan and South Korea, so on and so on. So it came with it the kind of veneer of trying to help develop other countries' industry, which is what the architects of the Bretton Woods system intended for it to be. Now, after the 1970s and the so-called neoliberalism and the reign of the IMF, all of this talk of developmentalism is thrown out the door. And instead, you have a view that magically things will just work themselves out with a kind of free reign of finance capital and debt and so on, and bank loans that can't be paid. And this era specifically has led to a dramatic... it has come at the expense of this way of life and standard of living Americans were used to. But the real danger, I don't think, we are only at the initial stages of the big danger for how the Biden and the Democrats and the progressives plan on addressing this. Because when you combine the so-called democratic socialism of the squad and the DSA and the American left and all its woke agenda and so on, with the neoconservatives and their foreign policy agenda, which do coalesce. I mean, other countries, Russia, Sameera alluded to Chechnya, China, these are not woke countries. They're countries that are morally reprehensible according to left-wing sentiments in the United States. I mean, Iran's a deeply conservative, traditional country. I mean, it goes on, right? So when you combine leftism with a social agenda, plus, I mean, everything just works out together. Like, on the one hand, it's the moralistic sentiment of we have to go and civilize the barbarians because they're not woke enough. It's the second thing. We need to fulfill our social agenda by robbing and looting the wealth of other people in this world. Third, conveniently, so happens to align with the interests of the neoconservatives and the deep state, which has designs of foreign aggression anyway. So it's this perfect storm we have to keep an eye on, which is in the making as we speak.
Kind of shifting gears here. What do you think about the future, I guess, that American electoral politics holds? Because, Haz, you and I were talking about this, and I guess... Well, I saw Kim Iverson tweet out. She said, "I'm voting all Republicans in this next election cycle," and I just don't really see myself voting for Republicans or Democrats. Obviously, Democrats don't serve our interests. Obviously, the GOP doesn't serve our interests. So I don't.
Is that from a moralistic perspective, though, or a strategic one? You saying that you're not going to vote Republican, not saying I'm going to vote Republican, but I just want to understand your process. Yeah.
It's both. More, I guess, right now, I guess it would be, right. Well, it kind of depends. It depends what happens in this election cycle. I mean, I don't think we really know what's going to happen with third parties, but 63% of Americans want a new third party. It depends who runs and if people can get candidates to run in third parties. I mean, who knows what could happen, but it's partially both. But I think Kim's idea behind this is she's very focused on like COVID issues, which I guess I could understand. If you want to vote for the better party that's dealing with COVID, and assuming this is still going to be an issue because we're going to treat this as an endemic, then yeah, you'd vote for the Republicans. So I guess my question is, what do you think about the future of American electoral politics? I know this is something we disagree on. And what do you think about also, I guess it's a two-part question. What do you think about the potential for the Republicans to foster a genuinely large amount of like populist support due to their governing and legislating on the issue of COVID, which is, come to dominate all of our lives? And do you think that, I mean, I think that's a bad thing, but what do you think the implications of that are going to be?
Let Haz answer first.
I want to be quick on this, but just from what I can garner, the Democratic Party is increasingly acting very much in, there are exceptions like Joe Manchin and Sinema are causing problems, but there's this kind of consensus emerging in the Democrats of one agenda, one position, one policy, one kind of, you're in or you're out. You're either progressive or you're reactionary, right? But there's actually, it seems to me, and this is my observation, is that in the Republican Party, there seems to be a lot of room for innovation and novelty. I mean, I'm just saying this as an observer. In New York, there's Republican candidates running on Medicare for all. Now, I fundamentally believe that the Republican Party is compromised by the Republican establishment in the same way the Democratic Party is. But there's a lot more chaos in the Republican Party right now than in the Democratic Party. And I think any third-party initiative of building a new party is going to be drawing from some of these Republican new populist candidates, probably even more than it will from, to bring into its coalition. What populist candidates exist among the Democrats? It seems the Democratic Party is a united front in almost every way now. With the exception of Manchin, Sinema.
Yeah, I agree completely. Me personally, I don't plan on voting. However, I have recognized the fact that the Democrats have gained so much power, not just political power, but cultural power, media power. They also have these alliances with these other liberal global leaders. And, if you've noticed, they've coordinated their sanctions so that they're the most impactful. Trump was not able to do that because he had terrible relations with these other European leaders. Unfortunately, the Democrats have been successful. Now, my focus is harm reduction. Do I think that the Republicans in power, objectively speaking, will they cause less harm than the Democrats? Yes, because like Haz said, regarding the sort of chaotic nature of the Republican Party and the internal chaos, that it will be incompetent imperialism versus competent imperialism. And that's my answer.
Interesting answers. But so like when it comes to, because Haz focuses his show a lot on, a lot of issues, but like definitely like heavily on, we talk both a lot about the idea of like CPUSA and the Communist Party and I guess kind of like rebirthing it and taking it over and stuff. And Sameera, you said that you don't believe that there could ever be some sort of like a popular Communist Party in this country ever again. What do you think about that? Why do you think that?
That's a tough question. I look at it, look at what happened. Back in 2016, there was a lot of third-party energy that was then, basically it went back to the Democratic Party. I think that before we can have any sort of third-party sentiment, or we have it, but a movement, a mass movement, we have to inform first. You can't organize without informing, and that's one of the issues I have with all of these people on Twitter in my mentions. Organize, AOC, organize. No, you have to inform first, number one. And I don't think that's being done at the moment, which is why I am looking to, make these connections and do that. But I try my best on social media, and most Americans are on social media, so we'll see what happens.
I actually completely agree with that because, Lenin's Bolshevik Party, the Russian Social Democratic Party, everything began from the newspaper. All the splits, all the divisions, all the politics of organization begins from media, begins from information. And Lenin was almost a media theorist, right? If you actually read his polemics and it's all about media. It's organized. That's really the issue with AOC. She keeps talking about organize, but her media is not conducive to any kind of popular movement because her optics are bad. So a really important part of information to me isn't just disseminating factual truths and like educating people in a rational sense, but also a cultural sense, like showing people what a communist could look like, and through your personality, even, and through what you're doing. So to me, one of the reasons I'm doing the infrared show and we're doing it, and I'm sure one of the reasons Jackson does his show is because we recognize this is a very important prelude or foundation from which we could provide support. AOC was created by the Young Turks. She was
Yeah,
created by a media organization. Um,
yeah,
Media is
for
everything.
sure.
So yeah, I personally am focusing my attention on media even before a party, right? It's not that I first was creating a third party. I first did the infrared show, and now I talk about a third party because I'm trying to create a symbiotic bond between an alternative media platform and a new party, which is kind of happening a little bit in the form of the
For
way in which
both of
we've
you.
become a nightmare for the CPUSA. We have sent our people in droves to that party, and they don't know who we are. They're trying to root us out and have witch hunts, and no one's revealing their secret supporters of us. But already we've created a symbiotic relationship with that party. And to Joe Sims and the National Committee, it is nothing personal. It's just you're caught at the wrong place in the wrong time. Um, but that party belongs to us in the future, is my belief.
Well,
I
I
agree.
have a question for both of you. The way that the AOC types, if you look at it from a general perspective, they've co-opted the word socialism, and they've taken it away from actual socialists. How do you plan to combat that?
I mean that's what I do on my show every single day pretty much, is just expose the frauds they are. That people hate on me all the time, like, Jackson, why do you always focus on them? I guess it's a different question to ask, like, how do you plan to take it back? But
Right. Yeah. Right.
I think step one, you have to show that they are not this. Saying how do you take it back is another thing, but that's what I do every day.
For that reason, I'm very hesitant to call myself a socialist. If you ask me, I'll use the words loosely. Yeah, socialism, socialist. But one of the things we made a meme about in our community, like a point of emphasis, we call ourselves, we're communists with a capital C. So one of the reasons, it's one of the reasons we directed people to the Communist Party was because there's already a DSA, a Democratic Socialist Party, and those same people rule the Communist Party right now. But the party is called the Communist Party, not so. There's this it's like a floating it's an empty signifier, right? There's room for a change so it could be different from the socialists, the Democratic Socialists. Um, the word communism. Look, yes, everyone calling themselves a communist is indistinguishable from the Democratic Socialists. But then you have to ask the question, well, why do they call themselves communists? What's different? So they're not giving it any different meaning. I feel like we are giving it a unique and different meaning. By calling ourselves communists, we represent a totally different orientation and stance than the so-called socialists, right? And also, I think conservatives can appreciate when you call yourself a communist because you're not backing down from all the negative connotations and you're owning up to the truth of history and all that kind of stuff. And my experience has been that calling myself a communist with a capital C has earned me a good faith audience in right wingers and in conservatives. They're genuinely, open to hearing what I have to say and what my position is.
Yeah, I think also adding on to that, two things. I agree with that wholeheartedly because I remember I was having conversations with some people that I guess maybe like about a year ago. Some people who are like very, very hesitant to use that word, say that they're a communist, but they're hesitant to use it. And they would just kind of like whisper it. And I'd always be like, there's something about that just seems like, well, it is weak. It's just a bitch move, you know? It's like, just fucking say it, you know? Don't be a bitch. And if you really believe it, especially, you know? So I think there's that. And then, like Haz said, I think just like being very distinct in what you believe is important too. But the other thing is, there are all of these people, like most of the people who troll us on Twitter, you know, all those dipshits, they are all now trying, and Haz, you were talking about this earlier today, I was tuned in when you were talking about this, they're all trying to use the Marxist-Leninist,
I was just going to bring this up. Oh
yes.
my gosh.
Yeah, they're all trying to use that.
Well,
that means they're threatened by you.
Well, this is something that's happened within the past year or two, and it also corresponds to some of the attention the Communist Party is getting. Most of that is because of me, I mean, us. But some of it is coming from them, and because we're witnessing a transition. I mean, the Bernie movement's done. The Democratic Socialist label has been exhausted. So all of these same people are now starting to call themselves Marxist-Leninist, and anti, you know, they're focused on that orientation. And I mean, even people like Hassan are starting to, the streamer, I'm on Twitch, so he's starting to kind of talk about Marxism, Leninism, and all these people who used to be sock dems and dem socks are starting to flirt with Marxism, Leninism, or at least explicitly call themselves as such. So this is the new trend. This is the next move. And the difference is that we're not going to let them have this one. We let them have democratic socialism because it's a pussy label anyway. But we are not going to let them have. We are not. I mean, the idea that Marxism, Leninism is just like wokeness with teeth is so fucking absurd from an international perspective. And I'm just confident it's not going to last here. It's only in America do people have this idea that, oh, Marxist-Leninist, that means you believe in wokeness with nuclear missiles. No, this is a fad. These people are going to become squad, Biden fascists. They're going to join this new fascism. They're adopting the aesthetics of Marxism-Leninism because they haven't awakened to the aesthetics of the fascist movement that is actually going to be their calling. And I'm sure when that reveals itself, they're all going to rally
dresses. Sorry.
Yeah, they're going to when this new like fascist neoconservative wokeness reveals itself, they're going to completely discard this ML stuff and leave it to us. So we shouldn't be fazed by their widespread adoption. I mean, the Gen Zedong, the Reddit people, to one of the most popular Marxist-Leninist Reddits, they're all woke liberals. They're all woke fascist liberals. The content creator Bay Area 415 or whatever his name is, it's the same shit. I mean, all of these people are liberals who were butthurt about Trump, so started calling themselves what they think conservatives hate the most, which is Marxist-Leninists.
Yeah. But it's like socialism with hippie characteristics. Because if you look at Hassan Piker and the way he's dressed, I mean, look at him 2-3 years ago and how he looked like that typical Chad you would imagine is a Marxist-Leninist. And now he looks like a hippie that just, you know, went to Woodstock.
He looks like, I said today, he looks like... he looks like a millennial trying to dress like a Gen Zer, but really is kind of pulling off like Ron Jeremy vibes in a bad way.
Right. And I think this culture war is definitely going to be a part of it.
Yes, I 100% agree. It's all the Chapo shit. It's all the fucking like DSA people that are trying to, you know, steal this and say like, yes, I'm a Marxist-Leninist, but fuck Julian Assange. I'm a Marxist-Leninist, but let's sanction the poorest countries on the globe. It's crazy. It's crazy. I'm a Marxist-Leninist because I think every small business should be a co-op. It's like, where are you finding this? Where are you reading this? Who taught you this? And it's because Hassan Piker taught them this dumb shit, you know?
Yeah.
their liberalism, their socialism is kind of this Fabian philanthropy, bourgeois socialism of the concern of the welfare and morality and empathy. And it's not based in any class warfare. It's not based in any raw class interest or some kind of people's war or anything like that. It's completely based in this kind of, this holier than thou, I know what's best for society mentality.
Yes.
Sure.
Feels like very like PMC. I know how to fix the pores.
And
yeah,
they wonder why the poor hate them. The working class despises them. Hassan Piker, sorry, the last thing is just, on average, who is going to be more sympathetic to Hassan Piker? A bourgeoisified, urban, kind of salaried professional, or a working class, construction worker? I mean, it's clearly going to be the former, right? So what does that say about his socialism,
Yeah.
That was exactly the point I was going to make. Sorry for interrupting.
It's so true, though. It's so true, and that's why he only has like a bunch of. I mean, he's huge. He's got a lot of viewers, but like it's mostly libs. It's like middle schoolers and high schools that are kind of dipped their toes in the world of politics just through the Bernie movement, and haven't had the lifetime I don't know, whatever. They just haven't gone further, and they believe whatever he says, and it's so sad. It's so sad because they all have everyone, Sam Cedar, all these people that are just fucking abhorrent individuals. They have such large platforms. They could be using them for great ends, but they don't. Is there any other things you guys think? I don't want to hold you for too long. I said like 45 minutes to an hour, but like, is there any other things you think you want to talk about before peacing out?
Well, I think we covered everything, and how, I think, like I said, culture war will be a huge, huge part of it. I think that I will have to sort of reassess my priorities and figure out how I'm going to manage, because you guys both know I've been trolled endlessly the past week for taking positions completely normal on the left in other countries. But that just shows how disconnected the left here is, or the socialist left here is, from the left in the global south. So I'm gonna have to figure out how to do things.
I say just keep doing you.
Yeah.
If you shut up and listen to the haters. And that's the other thing I explained about having a stream like this. Is like, if I was just on Twitter, Twitter's a bunch of libs. So I'd be getting ratioed all the time on Twitter. I only grew my platform on Twitter because I had this show. But then the other thing is, I come out here on the show and I make fun of Anna Kasparian, I make fun of whoever, and I tweet about them, and then I'm like, everyone, like, let's go. This is an army. Everyone go retweet this shit.
To be fair, the reason the left thrives on Twitter is because when you do a show, you have to actually like have skin in the game. You have to like present yourself. Yeah. You have to have charisma, personality. You have to be presentable and likable and funny. But when you're on Twitter, all you have to do is hide behind your keyboard and bluff. So of course the left is going to thrive on Twitter because these are absolutely grotesque. I mean, horrific.
Robert Cross, Phil Cross.
I mean, Twitter people, if these people, I mean, I've seen my haters, about 75% of them have streams. And they have one viewer per stream, and they have about 50 followers on their Twitch. And I can't really comment as per Twitch's terms. I cannot really comment about the appearance of these people, watchability of their streams, and the entertainment value and the level of success that they have. But let's just say there are accounts, 80,000 followers, and they go on live stream, and it's a complete disaster and failure. So they thrive on Twitter, but they can't do what we do for a reason.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So Sameera, if you decide to start streaming, you're gonna have your fucking army, and you're gonna send them out, and then I mean, we're all united in this shit.
Well, we should do something together. I think Haz actually mentioned it yesterday.
A podcast.
You know, he was talking about. Yeah, I think we should do something together. We're stronger in unity, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think in the face of all the shitlib podcasts and group projects and networks and all that shit, we need somewhere. We need somewhere to show the haters, where to go, lead them into a better future, and like if we're not united, it's going to be a bit tougher to do that. So I think that could be cool.
For sure, definitely.
All right. Well, I don't want to keep you any longer. We've already been going for over an hour, so it goes by quick. Thank you guys for coming on. And well, mods have been sending all your links in my chat. Mods, could you send the links again, please? Thank you. And Sameera, do you want to shout out and Haz shout out? Well, everyone knows where Haz is, but you can shout out for YouTube people.
Follow me on Instagram, InfraHaz. I need to grow that Instagram. InfraHaz on Instagram. That's it.
I'm Sameera Khan on Twitter, SameeraKhan, and that's the only thing I'm on, basically. I have Instagram, I don't use it, but yeah, Twitter.
All right, thank you guys. Yeah, everyone go get the Haz's thirst traps on Instagram. All right, thank you guys for coming on. I'll talk to you guys later.
All right,
bye.
Yeah, my fucking camera's still fucked up. So guys, this is me, and my shit is not frozen. I've been disciplined. You understand? Discipline. I've been like this for a reason. You have to understand you need discipline in this life. You can't always just be moving around. And how am I moving my lips? Saying, how are you moving your lips, Haz? How are you moving your lips? Well, what if I told you there's a way of doing this without moving your lips? Practice, discipline, things you would never understand. Okay? I'll see you guys tomorrow. Maybe. I don't know if I'm going to be able to stream tomorrow. I don't know. There's not going to be a stream Sunday in all likelihood, but there will be a stream Monday. So I might not see you guys till Monday. I don't know. I'm going to try to stream tomorrow. I'm going to try to IRL tomorrow if I can't stream, and we'll see. And without any further ado, I'm going to go take a shit. And it's as simple as that. Bye, everybody. And bye.